Cubs left fielder Ian Happ is in a contract season, and he's one of the highest paid left fielders in the game. Do you think he's worth it, and are the Cubs going to re-sign him? We talked about it a little bit yesterday. We're going to get back into that after he made some comments regarding this issue. Jed Hoyer has told us what keeps him up at night on this roster, and it's not going to surprise you guys. We're going to talk about that, and also the Cubs' top 30 prospect list, according to MLB Pipeline, has been released. All that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. You guys are getting us there, but we're not there yet. So if you're not a subscriber, do it. Thank you so much for being a part of what we do on a daily basis. We got some new partners on the show. We're having a great time. Let's talk some Cubs baseball. What do you say, everybody? Mick Gillespie. That really was the late, great, my good buddy, Ryan Sandberg. That is not AI generated. That was one of the best moments of my life when Rhino poured a beer on my head and he wasn't angry at me. Guys, thank you for being here. Again, this channel is red hot and it's because of you. It's so awesome to have Beer Money, which is our show with Cubs Hall of Famer Jody Davis. Every Sunday, we try to drop a new episode, so make sure that you check it out. It's current baseball, old school baseball, and stuff sometimes that has nothing to do with baseball. But we appreciate that. We also got Tony Andracki, used to be the correspondent on for Marquee. We covered them as a beat writer. He's on our channel now. And then guess what? We got Jesse Rogers. And, you know, I love Jesse. He's just national, man. And he's just a guy I like a lot. And it's so cool to have him on our channel. So check out his show as well. We'll have a show either Wednesday or Tuesday with him each week. So it just depends on where he's at and what his schedule is. We did our first one yesterday, and he was at the Team USA game when we recorded that show. But thank you all for being here. Let's get into today's show. And I asked Jesse yesterday about signing Nico Horner, signing Ian Happ, signing Seiya Suzuki. And then we talked a lot about Happ because I feel like he's one of those guys that and Jesse kind of felt the same way. When you look at it, you're like, I just don't see him re-signing with the Cubs, or at least the Cubs re-signing him. And I'm going to tell you why, but he was asked about that by Bruce Levine. And here's what he said, talking about probably not coming back. He said, "It's been a true honor for me to represent this great city, organization, and fan base. The reality of this is you can't control if the team wants you back. It's totally plausible. Another chapter elsewhere awaits me." And I mean, I think that's kind of a big deal that he said that. Let's get into this. First off, he has a no trade clause. If he didn't have a no trade clause, my gut feeling is he might have been traded by now. It's not like he is a bad player, because he's not. And I think we all agree with that. Shows up every day. I always feel like he gives you 100%. And I think that it starts with that on any player. You know, you get the best out of that guy. You know, last year he dealt with some injuries, and I think it kind of cost him a little bit. He's an excellent defender. He's won multiple Gold Gloves, including last year. He's got the left field Gold Glove lockdown. You know, he's a decent runner. Is he a clutch hitter? I mean, I wouldn't put that tag on him, but I think that there's been times where he has been clutch. When you look at where baseball ranks the top 5 left fielders, MLB Network, The Shredder, Buster Only, ESPN, Sportsnaut, he's not on the list. Duran and Anthony of the Red Sox, according to the MLB Network, are 1 and 2, and they both play on the same team. Cody Bellinger, former Cub, now with the Yankees, 3rd. Riley Green of the Tigers, 4th. James Wood of the National is 5th, according to MLB Network. Buster Only says Juan Soto, Riley Green, Cody Bellinger, Jackson Cherio, And Kyle Stoller's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then Sportsnaut, according to my research, Juan Soto, Jarren Duran, Riley Green, James Wood, and Cody Bellinger, right? So you got 3 different publications, and none of them have Ian Happ in their top 5. Now, it's a pretty stiff competition to be in the top 5, but here's where I feel like the Cubs probably have a rub with, Ian Happ. I think it comes down to this. Is he worth the money that the Cubs are paying him? Do you put him in the same category as some of those other guys? Now, here are the top 5 highest paid left fielders coming into the season. Alvarez of the Astros, $26+ million, right? $26 million plus a signing bonus. So Jordan Alvarez, the most highest paid. Christian Yelich of the Milwaukee Brewers, $22 million. Ian Happ, third at $18 million. Andrew Benintendi of the White Sox, $16.5 million. Tyler O'Neill of Baltimore, $16.5 million. So, okay. And sometimes, these contracts, we look at them and probably somebody's going to pop up and be like, well, something. You know what I mean, though. Look, I'm not using this as a definitive, like, hey, this is it. I'm just telling you just off the research I've done. Where do you feel like Ian Happ fits in as far as that group of players? And to me, I just think that there is, I would be more comfortable if he was in the 12 to 14, $15 million range. Just throwing it out there. When he signed this contract and it had a no trade clause, that was another area of this that I wouldn't have felt comfortable with. I think he's a good player. When he gets hot, he can carry a team. But I've never felt like there's an elite aspect to what he does. You can't compare him to Juan Soto, depending on what corner outfield spot Soto plays. Do you compare him to Jarren Duran? Do you compare him to Riley Green? Do you compare him to Cody Bellinger? James Wood? I would take all those guys over Ian Happ. Jackson Churio, maybe. I don't know. He's a damn good outfielder. So it's one of those things where I don't necessarily feel like Happ's a bad player, but it just doesn't feel like, if I was the Cubs, that the contract matches the production. And the production to me is, look, I appreciate the fact that he walks a lot, but it would be nice to get more production from him. When you look at his stats, last year, he hit 243. He's hit 243 the last 2 seasons and 248 the year before that. So that gives you an idea that that's kind of where he's at. And a 341 on base percentage. Last year was 342, 341 the year before that. 25 home runs, 23 home runs, 24 and 25. He had 86 runs batted in with the 25 home runs in 04. And then last year, just about the same production, 23 home runs, 79 runs batted in. He walks a lot. He is someone who strikes out a ton too. This is the biggest issue I have with him. 168 strikeouts, 151 strikeouts. I just don't think the power matches the amount of strikeouts that he has. And it feels like when he gets in those high leverage situations, he gets blown away by high fastballs. Now, that's just kind of where I feel like his struggles are as a member of this Cubs team. And, he's getting up there in age where it's like, okay, 31, eventually be 32, is he going to take less money? Because maybe that could solve it too. But you test the open market and somebody else may pay you. They may not care. It'll definitely be interesting to see kind of how his season goes, because a lot of times players have career years when they're in these contract seasons. But, he's a switch hitter. He does have better production from the left side. You guys know that. Above average power. Yeah, I love the fact that he hits gap to gap. You know, I still think he's inconsistent. I've never, like I said before, felt comfortable with him hitting the high fastballs and the breaking balls, although he's gotten better at it at the laying off of them as the career's gone. But anyway, you know, we'll see. I mean, this is definitely going to be something that if he starts to have a good season, that pops back up. If he has the same exact season he had last year, I think it's an easy decision for the Cubs. I think you let him go out there, test the open market, because it feels like the market might be lower than where he's paid right now. And then you decide whether you want to bring him back or not. So I think it's a win-win, right? Either you're going to save money on the contract or he's going to have a killer season. And I think we would both appreciate that. And if he had the type of season that if he put it all together and we saw what he's able to do in flashes on a consistent basis, I mean, this guy could really have a fantastic year. There's just times where you can't get him out, and he just needs more of those times. I mean, I don't know that there's a better, like when he's on a streak hitter than him. And you've seen it. I mean, he'll carry you for a week sometimes because you can't get him out. All right, second thing. And let me remind you guys before I talk about Jed Hoyer, QR code right there. Mick Nation, March Madness is here. That is where we're going to hang out. That's it right there. QR code, be a part of what we do on this channel through that QR code. AveD, that's our Web3 home. And we're going to be playing the bracket, March Madness, when that happens in a couple of weeks. And we're going to give away prizes on there, and you guys can be a part of that. So thank you for being here and being part of what we do on a daily basis. Throw it back up there again. All right, there we go. Jed Hoyer still concerned about the pitching staff. He was asked what keeps him up at night, and he just feels like that the Cubs could have some potential issues with starting pitching. You know, he talked about having 5 starters and that how those guys seem to always get hurt. He says, we live in a world now where I feel like your 9th and 10th starters are really important. This is something that I heard Theo Epstein basically talk about when he was the Cubs GM, and Jed Hoyer's definitely picked that up. And he talked about piecing together, 1,440 innings in different ways than you used to, right? And this is true, right? Like there was a season where Baltimore in 1971 had 4 guys win 20 games. 4. Mike Cuellar and Pat Dobson and McNally and Palmer, right? Jim Palmer. And that'll never happen again. I mean, you have 5 starters in a rotation now. The best rotation of the last like 20 years was the Braves when they had former Cub Greg Maddux with John Smoltz and Tom Glavine, and then whoever else they threw into the picture, right? And when you look at the rotation that the Cubs have right now, and this is why I felt like for sure that the Cubs were serious about Zach Gallen, and that's the reason why I asked Jesse about it on the show yesterday, was because I felt like this is something that is really important to him. Now, you can't make a deal that doesn't make sense, and I get that, and that's why they didn't make the deal. And Jesse talked about that, and pretty much echoed what I thought. But they were serious about adding another starter, having more pitching, and I think that you don't want to get to the point where you're out of guys. I mean, I heard Craig Counsell talking in the post-game press conference a couple of days ago about Colin Ray and how last year Colin Ray wasn't in the rotation. 2 rounds in, somebody gets hurt, and he ends up being one of the Cubs' most reliable starters. And that's kind of how he is this year. He's on the outside looking in. You also have Justin Steele that eventually will be ready, and Javier Assad, who we talked about a couple of days ago. Would the Phillies make a deal for him? Would the Cubs be willing to trade him? If Jed is serious about this, then he wouldn't make that deal, right? And I saw a great comment one of you guys, a great comment on Twitter to our post, and they were like, "Hey, Tommy Hotovy said that he doesn't like a 6-man rotation because it thins out the back end of the bullpen," which is exactly what I thought too, except when you get into these spots where you're pitching, playing a lot of games in a row, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you mix in a doubleheader, you get an extra guy in the, on the roster for that day. You don't have a day off, and then of course playing day games, night games, and the things you do at Wrigley. I could see them for stretches doing a 6-man rotation, but saying you need 9 or 10 starters is almost exactly what I remember Theo Epstein talking about, and I guess that's why Jed's kind of right back to this again. Hey, we need more pitching, and I mean, going into this season, you would feel good about it, but you keep looking at these guys and going, okay, Jameson Tynes had a terrible spring. I don't know how that translates. I don't know. Sometimes guys have a terrible spring and then the real games happen and all of a sudden they're really good. But he's had injury issues. Shota had an injury the last 2 seasons at some point. Matthew Boyd was healthy last year, and that was like the first time ever for him. Cade Horton has always had injury issues. You keep going down the line, and it's like, you could seriously look at, man, you lose like 2 or 3 starters in a week or two, and then what are you doing, right? And the Cubs don't have any help coming from the minor leagues. And the guy, and they made the trade with the Twins last year, and traded one of the guys that I felt like would be a piece to help in this area when they got Willie Castro. Right now you're not thinking about Sam Armstrong or Ryan Gallagher, but these are 2 starters that were at the AA level and potentially would have been this year in position to help you win. And, that was in a minor league system that is already depleted of pitching, 2 guys that you traded away. So, we're about to talk about MLB Pipeline's top 30 prospects. There's just no starters in there. And I'm sure that's probably why he's looking at it going, man, besides Jackson Wiggins, there's not a whole lot of guys that you look at right now and say, hey, this guy can come up and potentially help us. Brandon Birdsell is a guy that I think would be that person if he's healthy, right? He's got to be healthy, though. And he's coming back from an injury. And so I wouldn't put him in that list today, but I think eventually he could be. And I think Jed's right on the money. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, talking about prospects, is MLB Pipeline announced their top 30 prospects, updated prospects. Moises Ballesteros is number 1. Jackson Wiggins is number 2. Ethan Conrad, who was the Cubs' first-round pick last year, an outfielder, left-handed batting outfielder, who was injured when they drafted him, should be healthy, so we're excited about having him at number 3. Kevin Alcantara in the outfield for the Cubs. I heard Craig Counsell saying that he likes the way the ball sounds off of his bat. The Cubs need this guy to grow up and be the player that he has the talent to be in the outfield, because he's in, AAA big leagues. He's on the 40-man. This is a guy who could potentially break out and be a big factor for the Cubs. And he's one of the reasons why I feel like the system's not ranked very high. Jesse and I talked about that yesterday. I think a lot of it just comes down to his maturity. Jefferson Rojas, shortstop, being AA this year, is 5th. He was blown away last year in AA, and he's got to make up. He's going to really have to make up a lot of ground that he lost when he was promoted. So we'll see what happens there. Kane Kepley, not sure too much about him. Jonathan Long, hit machine, injured right now, but first baseman in AAA. Pedro Ramirez, who's a really, really talented, won a Gold Glove in the minor leagues on the 40-man roster, third baseman, second baseman. I see him being like kind of a utility guy. And then James Triantos, who is a guy that makes a ton of contact, had a down season last year. Cubs need him to bounce back. If they got it, the Cubs system right now is ranked as low as I can remember when you look at top 100 prospects and this list. But look, it could turn around fast. Ethan Conrad looks like the player the Cubs thought he was when they drafted him. And he's as good as people think he can be. Okay, that's going to help you. He'll break into the top 100 prospects. Alcantara, steps up, does the thing that he's capable of doing in the big leagues. I think that helps you. Jefferson Rojas, I mean, I couldn't possibly go worse than it did last year in Double-A. Jonathan Long comes back from his hyperextended elbow and continues to hit. He was the organizational player of the year a season ago. Pedro Ramirez most likely is going to be in Triple-A this year. Gives you some depth. You know, maybe he's a Willie Castro type. I don't know if the Cubs shouldn't go ahead and get him some experience in the outfield. But James Triantos out there at 10, this guy's got a ton of talent. It's just a matter of being a little more patient because he can hit the ball. He's a really great contact hitter, just getting on base a little bit more. All right, hey, you guys tell me what you think. Great to have you on the show. Thank you for being here and hanging out. We'll do it again tomorrow. It's exciting because we're getting closer to opening day. I know that some of you are concerned that the Cubs aren't winning a lot of these spring training games. Don't worry about spring training. Look at the lineups they're putting out there. I've been through a decade of spring training. It's the way it is, okay? So don't worry about that. And even when guys like Tyone are struggling, it's just the air's different out there. The players behind you are different out there. The catcher you're throwing to, what you're working on. You know, sometimes you're just trying to throw fastballs. You're not mixing your pitches. You're way more hittable, whatever it is. Don't be concerned. All right. Thank you. And want to tell you guys this before we get out of here about Rat Pack cards. We're really excited to be a part of this. You go to Whatnot, and they do card auctions every day. They repack, buy, and sell on there, the ratpackcards.com, but or at yahoo.com. What's really cool is you go on to Whatnot and basically you get to bid on some of your favorite cards. And they do auctions and it's so much fun to watch, especially as like a baseball card guy, you know. You got to check it out if you haven't seen it yet. It's really one of the coolest things out there. And the Cubs Double-A team has they run this. And so they were audited by Whatnot. I mean, it's a big deal. There's super expensive cards. Sometimes you can get for like $40. I mean, it's almost like it's like an auction of baseball cards. So check it out. All right, thank you, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.